Hi, I'm Avery Davidson.
And I'm Kristen Oaks-White. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. A hidden gem inspired by the Far East lies in the hills of West Feliciana Parish.
This week, Twila's Neil Molossaw shows us how a third-generation landscaping family helped reshape and beautify their corner of Louisiana.
The Imahara Gardens at Hemmingbow are a labor of love. That labor comes from 84-year-old Walt Imahara, a second-generation landscaper whose family moved to the U.S. at the turn of the 20th century. They kept their roots intact, carefully building the stroll garden one snip at a time.
So he gave us a piece of property next to the water, and we had to do a lot of work there to get it prepared.
Walt is used to doing the heavy lifting around here. He was a collegiate and Pan Am weightlifting champion in the 60s and 70s. He says his desire to succeed is an asset on the racks and in the landscaping business.
There's no such thing as planting an ornamental plant in your yard that you cannot trim. You have to trim it because here, the nature of the growth. So in the holly family, boxwood family, juniper family, everything's kept low by pruning.
The attention and eye for detail is part of what makes their landscaping business so successful and is definitely present here at the gardens. In 2020, I shot this at the Heian Garden in Kyoto, Japan. An echo of it is present here in St. Francisville, Louisiana.
My father always talked about the odd numbers that he uses in his Japanese design of plant material. Why do you make a three-tier topiary? And he told the people here in Baton Rouge, it's called heaven, man, and earth. It doesn't what religion you're in, there's still heaven, man, and earth. Okay, and all of a sudden, the homeowner took pride in it.
Prominent in the garden is the family monument. The inscription is to Walt's great-uncle who died in a war in the 19th century. The monument survived World War II, but wasn't going to survive neglect.
The blast of the Hiroshima, this is right outside Hiroshima, and there's a hill there, and the blast went over the hill. The Buddhist temple survived, and a few monuments there survived. 50 years later, they're going to remove the monument. Now, every time we go back, we look for it, but it's one monument, hundreds around, but this one is not cared for, dirty, and it's leaning. There's no flowers, okay, and the Buddhist priest that lived there on the site said no one has come visit it for 50 years, so they're going to destroy it. So we made all the efforts and we brought it back to Louisiana a few years ago.
The Imahara family bell here is a Western touch that Walt says has been at their properties for a while and is for couples to have good luck as they ring it.
And we want to ring it 3 times, okay? And with that in mind, we want to be heard in heaven, okay? And the bell is like the monument. You cannot build a structure over it, okay? Because we're going to put a structure over the monument, and the first thing my Japanese friends said, no, you can't do that. It's got to point to heaven.
The combination of East and West is part of the harmony that governs both the Imahara landscaping and what they want to contribute to the world.
And like my father used to say, when you enter the world, nature and peace, okay, and you leave the old world behind.
Walter's niece Wanda Chase runs the family's landscaping business. Sadly, the day before I shot this story, her father passed away, and we want to offer our condolences to the Imahara family. Now, to find out more about Walt's story or to utilize their landscaping yourself, we'll link you over to our website at twilatv.org. And guys, this was really had a good opportunity for me. I kind of had an error. I ran out. I didn't get the audio the first time around, so I had to go back out, and I went to their family's museum they have there on Perkins Row at their business. And their father has all kinds of poetry carved into wood, really. Wow. And as well as all of Walt's trophies from weightlifting and all of their family history from, all the way from California to the World War II internment camps all the way through modern day.
And then this is the second story you've done with them. I mean, the first one 20 years ago. Yeah. What was that like going back and meeting with them again?
It was fun. It was great to see all of them before. I was going to have Wanda on, of course, but it's their business is so integral to Baton Rouge, as well as the fact that Cortana Mall is being demolished right now here in Baton Rouge. Well, they were the ones who originally landscaped it all those years ago in the 70s.
That's crazy.
Story right up your alley. I could not have written a better one for you to do.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Neil Melanson.
Well, landscaping companies like the one owned by the Imaharas depend heavily on wholesale nurseries to supply them with the plants that we love to see in our yards. But what happens when disaster strikes the region where many of those nurseries are located? Plants are destroyed and business owners scramble to stay afloat.
That's why Senator Bill Cassidy visited Forest Hill during a recent trip through the state. As Twila's Carl Wiggers shows us, he's working with these nursery owners to keep their businesses alive and help bring the relief they need.
2020 and now 2021 have been tough on folks in the nursery industry. First, Hurricane Laura devastated crops and facilities in August of 2020. Then unprecedented freezing damaged crops just weeks before spring shopping began. That's why Senator Bill Cassidy is in Forest Hill meeting with nursery owners today.
And right now, the help from the federal government has not been quite what it should be. Some programs have worked well. I gather PPP has worked reasonably well for those who access. But in terms of the relief after the winter storms, that's been lacking. And that's one thing we're going to look at, see if we can't make it better.
One person hoping for better news is Juan Garcia, co-owner of Faith Nursery in Forest Hill.
You know, because everybody, we was in the same situation. We lost inventory, we lost structures, you know, and everybody's a little bit in panic, you know, about this.
They're in panic because many of the men and women around this table are without inventory and have damaged structures with no relief in sight. However, Senator Cassidy says relief is on the way.
We are working on that, and there's been a lot of stuff to look at from this past year, including things affecting ag. For example, the derechos in Iowa, but hurricanes just not in Louisiana, but also Alabama and the Florida Panhandle, the forest fires in the West Coast. So we've got multiple disasters that have to be addressed. We do think there will be a disaster supplemental.
In Forest Hill, I'm Carl Wiggers for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
Now, as of this week, nursery owners are still working to get clarity from state and federal agencies on how to fill out forms designed for row crop producers. We'll update this story in the coming weeks. In the meantime, please visit these nurseries in central Louisiana and support them. Now, more than ever, shopping local could help to keep these folks in business.
Well, it's time now for a fundraiser benefiting a pretty darn good cause. The Vermilion Parish Young Farmers and Ranchers are hosting the second annual party at the Red Barn. The event will feature live and silent auctions, a cash bar, a cochon de lait, and plenty of jambalaya and alligator sauce piquant to feed you and the friends you bring along. Money raised at the event will benefit the Dwayne Zonbrecker Scholarship, the Louisiana Farm Bureau Foundation Linda and Wayne Zonbrecker Scholarship, which is a statewide offering, the Louisiana Ag in the Classroom Foundation, and the Vermilion Parish Young Farmers and Ranchers. Last year's inaugural event raised more than $32,000. This year's event will happen on May 8th from 6 to 11 p.m. at the Louisiana Cattle Festival Barn in Abbeville, Louisiana. Advance tickets are $10 and tickets at the door just $5 more at $15. We'll have a link to all of this on our website at twilatv.org. And I remember the video Carl brought back last year. It was a great event. Looks like this one's going to be pretty huge as well.
It looked like a great event and supporting a wonderful cause.
Absolutely.
So the LSU Ag Center Food Incubator has recently opened a brand new bottling facility. The incubator specializes in developing emerging food ventures and provides technical support during the often difficult startup period.
Twila's Jennifer Finley takes us to the facility to see how this upgrade advances the incubator's mission.
This is where the bottles are cleaned. These are our student workers. When they graduate, they'll have the real life experience of producing product for companies. So they're ready to go when they leave here. My name's Gay Sandoz, and I'm director of the Food Incubator at LSU Ag Center. So we have around 35 tenants right now that work in the incubator and 4 tenants that will be in our new bottling plant. Right now, we are in our new large warehouse. These are supplies for our bottling plant and our incubator tenants. They're growing so fast, they're ordering in pallets, and we're just processing, making products, sending them out to the grocery stores. Our bottling plant here is fully automatic, state of the art, and it'll produce up to 25,000 bottles a day. So this is going to enable companies like Sal and Judy's, who are here today, because their co-packer shut down because of the COVID virus.
My name is Joe Impostado. I own Impostado Family Wholesale, which also includes Sal and Judy's products. We're here at the LSU Ag Center. We're blessed and fortunate enough to where we're manufacturing our salad dressing here that we've been out of stock on. because of COVID shutdowns, and they're helping us out. We're getting a lot of work done.
We started out as an economic development center, and we help entrepreneurs get started in the food business.
I mean, it's been a lifesaver for us. You know, they have a very nice, clean facility, a great staff. So we have a simple product. It's clean, all natural. They have the right equipment here that we're able to manufacture it with, and they've been just really great to us. So yeah, it's been a fantastic marriage, I'd say.
So we started off small in a lab on campus, and the first day we opened, 6 months later, we had 10 food businesses wanting to start. So it grew from there. We have Hanley's that's here. Everyone's heard of them in Baton Rouge. They're growing. We have Sal and Judy's coming over here, and also Camellia Beans owns a company called D'Agostino's. We'll be bottling their sauces in the bottling plant as well. So yes, it's just exciting. I have people that have lost their jobs, they're unemployed, they come and start a business here and then find themselves having control of their own destiny. And I love that. Let's teach people how to fish, so to speak.
The LSU Ag Center Food Incubator hosts informational seminars for anyone interested in starting a food business. You can learn about those on the LSU Ag Center website, or you can contact Gay Sandoz directly. You'll find her contact information and links on our website at twilatv.org.
Well, it's not unusual to see cattle grazing in a pasture as you drive around Louisiana, and I personally like it when you see the black cows in the field.
Always wanting to show the Angus cattle. However, if you're driving in certain parts of the state, you may exclaim, "Oh dear," as you see a different kind of herd. The deer and the elk play at Two Brothers Whitetails in La Ranger. Co-owner Brandon Bollinger makes sure these animals are well fed and cared for. This is one of only a handful of deer and exotic farms in Louisiana. Bollinger says he and his brother Trey just sort of stumbled on the idea.
Me and my brother got lost on a hunting trip up in Windthorst, Texas, and drove into a guy's place that had a deer farm, and was really intrigued by the deer and how big his deer were. And so we started dreaming, and my brother was like, "We can do this here in Louisiana just like they do it in Texas."
The two started with 5 does and a buck. That was in 2012. 9 years later, you'll find 500 whitetails and 500 exotics like elk, these Watusi, Sika, fallow, and axis, none of which the Bollingers can move and handle like cattle.
If a deer or an elk can see through the fence, they'll hit it wide open. So unlike a cow, when they get up to the fence, they stop. They don't stop. They just bounce off, and all our fences are set up to have flex to them.
You'll notice that the fences are higher than those for cattle. The facilities for deer are set up so the deer cannot see any person, and the elk barn is set up so the elk can only see the handler's head. Bollinger's son Bray is working more with the animals, which is part of his father's plan to turn the business over to him.
He does all the hauling of the animals, the darting of the animals, all himself. So him and our other guy that works here. So I've pretty well handed just about everything other than the business side over, and that'll be coming to him really quick.
And Bray, who's 20 years old, has plans for when he takes over.
Just to continue to grow, try and raise the best and the most high quality animals and that survive and live in this habitat. You know, that's something that I really pride ourselves on, that our animals live. If we give them to somebody else, or then they have that assurance that they're buying the best animal they can.
While Bollinger says the deer and exotics business is lucrative, it was not insulated from the pandemic. He says prices for white-tailed deer dropped by 50% once COVID-19 hit. And Kristen, it's just neat to see this kind of an operation and how they have to have so much specialized. You can't do it like you do cattle.
That's true, and it's actually, do you know, and I know this since you know that I had, it's not, probably shouldn't talk about it, but we don't have her anymore. We had a deer in our backyard for quite some time. Mm-hmm. But they are, did you know that they are more closely related to a goat?
I did not know that.
They do, they have a lot of the same mannerisms. Their makeup is a lot the same. Genetically, they're very close to a goat.
Your knowledge of trivia is not bad.
Well, jeez.
Do you have some old kitchen artifacts sitting around your house that you don't really know what to do with? If so, we may have just the place for you to donate them.
In this week's Ag Minute, our friends at the Southern Food and Beverage Museum show us a few recent contributions made to the museum and tell about their rich history.
Greetings from the Southern Food and Beverage Museum. I'm Brent Rosen, Museum President, and for this week's Ag Minute, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about what kind of artifacts can you donate to the museum. We are always looking for more interesting things that represent Southern food, and we pulled together a couple of things we were donated this week from Lafayette, Louisiana for you to take a look at. One is this amazing old cast iron kettle that used to be used for sugar and other processing. We have this amazing 1940s era blender from Oster, and that's one of the first blenders electric that was ever made. And then sometimes we find these really interesting, almost quirky things. This is an example of some really neat sugar art that was created by the mother of the woman who donated all of these things. And when she asked us, can you use that? We said, well, it belongs in a museum, so we'll take it. And if you have anything around your house that you don't need anymore, that has historical value, looks interesting, or might be fun to have in a museum, you can reach out to us at info@southernfood.org, and we'll take your donations. Thanks again for joining us for this Ag Minute.
Now, if you'd like to donate your antique blender or something else you just know must be in a museum, you can get in touch with the Southern Food and Beverage Museum on our website at twilatv.org. Who knows, you may see it featured on the next Ag Minute down the road. Still to come on Twila, we meet a country artist raised on a Northeast Louisiana farm.
But first, we take a look at a critical window for farmers, planting season. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm John Fielder, and I'm the Vice President, Branch Manager of the Louisiana Land Bank Shreveport Branch. In today's market, where interest rates are all-time low, it's very hard to find an investment that can compare to timber, something that's consistent, and typically if you manage timber correctly, it'll grow possibly as much as 6 to 8% or more. If you're looking for that loan for timber, for recreation property, for cattle, crops, call me, John Fielder at the Louisiana Land Bank.
It's a well-known fact that here in Louisiana, sugarcane is more than just a crop. It's a way of life. It creates more than 16,000 jobs across the state and an additional $3 billion boost to our state's economy. And Louisiana's cane families always give back to the communities where we live, work, and play. Louisiana sugarcane, making life sweeter, naturally.
Sugarcane, sweet sugarcane.
I'm a farmer.
I am a farm wife.
I am a cowboy.
I am a grass farmer.
I'm a businesswoman.
I'm a conservationist.
I am an advocate.
I am a voice for Louisiana farmers.
I'm always learning.
I'm a husband.
I'm a mom.
I am a dad.
I'm a granddad.
I am a consumer.
I grow the food that feeds your family, and I'm proud of it. I am Farm Bureau.
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 We are Farm Bureau.
Though it's been stormy across most of Louisiana this week, the few weeks before that have had nice weather for Louisiana farmers looking to get their corn and soybean crops in the ground.
And considering our own Carl Wiggers has a soft spot for those crops, it should be no surprise he found a beautiful day to capture some video from the Louisiana Delta of the planting and fertilizing underway. And we want to wish all of our farmers a safe and fruitful planting season. And as they say in the Hunger Games, may the odds ever be in your favor.
And may the force be with you, since I'm a Star Wars geek.
Whatever, we need whatever help we can get. While row crops are just now going into the ground across much of the state, crawfish farmers are deep into harvest season, and the catch is looking pretty good. Have you had any really good crawfish this year, Avery?
Well, I've been to a few boils, okay, one or two, and I have to say this year's crop is impressive. Size, taste, everything.
Really good.
So let's check out the prices from a few places around the state. In my hometown of New Iberia, you can visit Freeman's Magic Dust Crawfish Express, which is just a couple of blocks away from where I grew up, and get live crawfish for $2.85 a pound. If you want them boiled, those will cost you $4.75 a pound.
In Mamou, you can get crawfish from B&L Seafood Market for $2.25 per pound live and $3.99 a pound for boiled.
Op's Cajun Crawfish in Marksville has crawfish for $2.50 a pound live, and for boiled you can get them for $4.25 a pound. As always, call before you head out. Make sure to check those prices as they can kind of change near the weekend. Thanks to our friends at the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board, which reminds you to always eat Louisiana crawfish, and if you're not sure, ask before you eat.
Still to come on Twila, from the country to a country star. Stay with us.
Louisiana oysters, salty, sweet, and delicious. But have you ever thought about what happens to all those oyster shells? Most of them end up in trash cans and landfills. The Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana is changing this with its oyster shell recycling program, and you can help by visiting these participating restaurants. It's a simple and delicious way to restore our coast. The shells will then be used to sustain and rebuild oyster reefs. Remember, once you shuck them, don't just chuck them.
Landowners are minding the Louisiana forest for our grandchildren. A place for wildlife, recreation, lumber for homes. It's the right thing to do. Forestry, covering half our state, all of our hearts.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
From farm girl to fame, country singer Lainey Wilson grew up on a farm in northeast Louisiana.
And in this week's Twila Boost, Tammy Oringer shows us how Wilson turned her southern roots into songs.
Lainey Wilson is a singer-songwriter from Baskin, Louisiana. She moved from that small farming community in Franklin Parish to Nashville in 2011.
Baskin, Louisiana, 300 people, $2.99 once I left. Just a tiny town full of good people. I mean, this town right here is a town that shaped who I am and shaped the kind of music that I write, and I love me some Baskin. I love coming home.
But she knew ever since she was 9 years old, Music City would be her home.
We went and saw Dollywood, and we did that whole thing, and on the way back to Baskin, I begged my parents to just drive through Nashville, and they had never been either, and I remember exactly where I was on the interstate, in the back seat. I was staring at the Batman building, and I was on I-40. And in the back seat, I said, "This is home." And, you know, Mama kind of turned around and was like, "Lainey, you're 9 years old. You know, what you talking about?" But it's this crazy thing, but I've always known.
But it was even earlier than that her parents knew she would be a singer.
She got up here, I didn't even know she could sing, you know, and she got up at kindergarten graduation and done it.
and she hadn't shut up since.
Even when she was little, I knew that this was going to be where she was going to be, where she was going to travel. You know, her life was going to take her. Now, it hasn't been easy.
Her father, Brian, grows corn, wheat, and oats. He says it's not unusual for her to want to come home and do what she did as a kid.
It's fun to come home and, you know, they'll throw me on a tractor and we'll just do stuff like that. It feels good to get back to my roots.
Lainey loves to drive a tractor and help her dad. She also loves to shoot guns, ride horses, and kick up some dust in the side-by-side.
You have a need for speed, don't you?
But home isn't a break from the music, just the opposite.
I just get so inspired when I come back here, and I think it's too because, like, I look around and, you know, this is a blue-collar town. This is, you know, so many people just bust their tail here to provide for their families, and the people here inspire me.
Her inspired songwriting led to a publishing deal, and that turned into a record deal, and after a decade, finally hearing her songs on the radio.
Unbelievable. You know, it made me feel like that little 9-year-old girl on the interstate in Nashville looking at the Batman building wasn't completely crazy.
In Baskin, I'm Tammy Arender for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
And a little known fact, did you know that Lainey Wilson was a Franklin Parish Farm Bureau Queen in 2010, I believe?
2010. Now that you say it, I now remember her from that convention. It's been a while. This old memory doesn't work the way it used to. Well, that does it for this edition of Twila. Be sure to join us next week when we'll have an update on the crawfish season from a Church Point crawfish farm.
Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org, and be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find all of these stories and more on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to us and turn on the notifications so that you know when we put out new content.
For all of us here at Twila, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.